Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, so if you're the kind of person who loves geeking out over the tactics of the beautiful game, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's just jump right into it. I'm going to make a pretty bold claim right out of the gate. The traditional football formations you grew up with, the rigid 4-4-2s or standard 4-3-3s, they're essentially an illusion now. Literally dead. Modern football just isn't defined by those rigid starting positions anymore. It's all about fluid structures, controlling space, and mastering those crucial moments of transition. And honestly, as we'll see by unpacking Tottenham Hotspur's incredibly frustrating 2025-2026 campaign, if you don't master that fluidity, your entire buildup is just neutralized. To really wrap our heads around this huge paradigm shift, we need to look at the core philosophy driving the modern game. It's perfectly summed up by Pep Guardiola. He says, move the opponent, not the ball. Think about that for a second. It completely flips how we view possession. Elite teams aren't just hoarding the ball for the sake of it. They're passing it specifically to manipulate space and geometry. Every single short exchange is designed to literally make a defender shift their weight or move their feet. Because the exact second they step out of their assigned zone, boom, a fatal gap opens up. Okay, let's dive right into this and compare the old way with what's actually happening on the pitch today. For decades, right, the pitch was treated like this rigid grid. Static formations, players basically waiting around in their designated zones. It was highly structured. But the modern game, it's basically organized chaos. We're talking fluid rolls, aggressive manipulation of space, and these wild, complex positional rotations. A top-tier team might nominally set up and defend in a 4-4-2, sure, but the very millisecond they win that ball back, they've morphed into a 3-2-5. It's that fast. Because everything is so fluid now, elite managers just don't think in terms of static formations anymore. They plan their entire tactical setup around the 4 phases of play. That's in possession, out of possession, attacking transition, and defending transition. Literally every single tactical decision falls into one of those 4 buckets. And today, we're really going to hone in on how teams are completely dominating the out-of-possession and in-possession phases to just absolutely suffocate their opponents. Let's start with the out-of-possession phase, specifically looking at the hybrid high press. This is all about suffocating the opposition with incredibly organized aggression. Now, what's really interesting about this is how the best defense nowadays is actually the first phase of an attack. And absolutely nobody proves that better than Indoni Iarola's AFC Bournemouth. I mean, just look at the sheer dominance of their pressing intensity here. Ranked number 1 in the Premier League across the board for the 24-25 season, they were forcing over 29 danger zone losses every single 90 minutes. They led the entire league in goals directly resulting from high turnovers. We're talking about an absolutely devastating, suffocating pressing machine. You probably noticed they also ranked first in PPDA with an 8.53. Just to make sure we're all on the exact same page, PPDA stands for passes allowed per defensive action. It's basically the ultimate metric for measuring a team's pressing intensity. A super low number, like Bournemouth's 8.53, means the opposing team can barely string together 8 passes before someone is aggressively tackling or intercepting them. It's mathematical proof that Bournemouth weren't just sitting back hoping for a mistake. They were actively, aggressively hunting the ball down. So let's ground this theory in some harsh reality. We need to look at what I'd call the defining failure of Tottenham Hotspur's incredibly disappointing 2026 campaign. Their complete inability to beat this kind of hybrid press. There was this intensely frustrating 1-0 loss to Bournemouth that highlighted it perfectly. Spurs, a team that absolutely insists on building out from the back, were completely neutralized. Literally 0 shots attempted in the first half. A microscopic 0.17 expected goals for the entire match. Bournemouth's press didn't just annoy Tottenham, it literally broke their entire tactical game plan. So how does a team actually execute that? How did Iraola's wide trap completely dismantle Spurs? Well, it happens in very deliberate stages. First off, they set up in a zonal structure that just entirely blocks off the center of the pitch. No way through the middle. Then, a forward makes this clever curved run, deliberately forcing the Spurs goalkeeper to pass out wide. And the second that ball travels out wide, bam, the trap snaps shut. Bournemouth instantly flips the switch into this hyper-aggressive man-to-man press. In that specific game, Bafodé Diakité, Bournemouth's right center-back, he just kept jumping wildly up the pitch to completely smother Pape Matar Sarr every single time Sarr dropped deep to try and help the build-up. It was a total tactical masterclass in disruption, and it completely exposed the fatal flaws in how Tottenham was trying to play. But, okay, what happens when these elite teams actually win the ball back? That brings us to mastering the 3-2-2-3 box midfield. It's all about building squares instead of triangles. This structure is exactly the tactical fix Tottenham desperately needs for their roadmap to recovery. For decades, midfield play was entirely built on forming triangles. But modern managers, they've completely rewired the geometry of possession. Now it's a box. By using 2 deep pivots and 2 attacking midfielders to form a literal square in the center of the pitch, you guarantee you always have a free fourth man. It instantly prevents the kind of midfield isolation that kept ruining Tottenham's build-up. If the other team tries to press that box with 3 midfielders, well, they're just mathematically beaten from the start. So the really crucial point here is exactly where this box midfield is operating. Because the entire goal of this shape is to completely monopolize Zone 14. If you don't know, that's the central rectangular patch of grass right outside the penalty box. It is universally recognized as the single most dangerous area to have the ball on a football pitch. For a team like Spurs, who were really struggling to break lines, setting up shop in Zone 14 has to be the ultimate goal. The box midfield basically ensures your most dangerous technical players are constantly receiving the ball on the half-turn directly in a defender's absolute nightmare zone. This 3-2-2-3 shape is just the ultimate tactical weapon, and there are a few massive reasons why. First, like we just talked about, it creates a 4v3 numerical overload right in the center. And what does that do? It causes absolute panic for the opposition's fullbacks. They feel forced to pinch inwards to help out their outnumbered midfielders, and when they do that, it perfectly isolates your wingers way out on the flanks for pure 1v1 matchups. It's that classic overload to isolate principle in action. And the crazy thing is, while you're throwing all these bodies forward to attack, the shape naturally leaves you with a built-in rest defense of 5 players. This fixes the exact vulnerability to counterattacks that plagued Spurs all season long. Yeah, 5 is the magic number here when we're talking about Tottenham's tactical improvements. By utilizing inverted fullbacks to push 5 attacking players super high up against a standard back 4, you are absolutely guaranteeing a free man in that final third. Just imagine Spurs operating with this really solid, deep pivot base that's expertly pulling the strings, feeding their front 5, all while remaining totally insulated from getting hit on the break. It gives the attacking players absolute freedom because the foundation behind them is just so incredibly secure. Which leads us perfectly into our final major shift, the rise of hybrid roles. We are literally witnessing the extinction of fixed positions. Look, to execute all this crazy, complex geometry, managers need players who can do way more than just one job. Let's think about the playmaker role, the traditional number 10. You know, the guy who just stood around waiting for the ball to arrive, offering absolutely zero defensive help. That player is totally extinct at the elite level. They've been entirely replaced by what we call the free 8. Teams are basically using dual free 8s, pushing up into those half spaces. Sure, they are incredibly creative on the ball, but they also have this massive, relentless defensive work rate. And if Tottenham, or anyone, wants a true recovery roadmap, having those tireless free 8s is absolutely vital for maintaining central control and actually leading the counterpress. And this brilliant shift in job descriptions is happening all over the pitch. Take the inverted fullback. This is such a crucial tactical improvement for Spurs. Guys like Destiny Udogie or Pedro Porro, they literally have to abandon a wide touchline, step inside, and give Tottenham that heavy central control in midfield. Then you have the hybrid center back, stepping way forward to become an extra central midfielder in possession. And even the sweeper keeper, they aren't just there to stop shots anymore. They're acting as the 11th outfield player, drawing the opponent's press in, and then playing that very first crucial line-breaking pass. Let's actually move through a sequence and see how this builds in real time, mapping out what Tottenham's recovery should look like. Seconds 1 to 5, Vicario gets on the ball, acting as that 11th man purely to bait the opposition's press. Then, seconds 6 to 15, the fullbacks invert, totally shifting the team into that aggressive 3-2-5 attacking shape. Moving into seconds 16 to 30, the midfield drops right between the lines, dragging a defender entirely out of position. And that right there is the exact tactical trigger needed to optimize Dominic Solanke. Because by seconds 31 to 45, Solanke is perfectly leveraging this high-intensity transition. He's totally isolated in the final third, with huge pockets of space to attack. It is literally a choreographed dance of space manipulation. We've seen exactly how this game has evolved into pure, fluid geometry. For a team like Tottenham Hotspur, mastering this box midfield and these demanding hybrid roles, it's not just a nice option anymore, it is their mandatory roadmap back to the top. With rigid formations officially dead and these hybrid roles dominating every single elite pitch, it leaves us with one massive question. Can struggling giants actually adapt to this organized chaos? Or will they just be left in the dust by football's next tactical revolution? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep your eyes on the pitch because the next massive paradigm shift, it might be happening right in front of us.